The alien ship Void Walker floated quietly through space, far from any known planets with life. Captain Thexera looked at his screens with tired eyes. He had flown this same route many times before. Every time, the computers showed the same thing. No life, no signals, nothing interesting at all. "Captain, look at this," said Navigator Zelmoth, his voice full of surprise. His 4 eyes were wide as he stared at his control panel. "I'm getting strange readings from the 3rd planet. That should not be possible." Thexera moved quickly to look at the screen. The numbers made no sense. "Are you sure the equipment is working correctly? Our records say this whole system is empty. We checked it 300 years ago." "The equipment is fine, sir. There are definitely electromagnetic signals coming from that planet. And Captain..." Zelmoth paused, looking confused. "These signals look like they come from human technology. Down on the planet's surface. Dr. Kim Tae was working in his laboratory when loud warning sound began to fill the air. He was a tall man with kind eyes who looked about 30 years old. But if someone had asked him his real age, they would have been shocked to learn he was actually 247 years old." Kim Tae quickly pressed buttons on his communication device. "Colony Leader Park Min, we have unexpected visitors approaching our planet." Park Min was in the colony's main control room when she received the message. Like Kim Tae, she looked very young, but she had lived for over 300 years. She had been one of the original people who came to this planet long ago on a ship called the New Horizon from Earth. "How did they find us?" she asked herself quietly. The colony had special technology that should have hidden them from other space travelers. Dr. Lee Jun, who studied alien life forms, ran into the control room. "The hiding systems are still working perfectly. Maybe their equipment is just better than we thought it would be." As the alien ship came closer to their planet, the people of New Elysium Colony prepared for something they had not done in 300 years, meet other intelligent beings from space. They had always known this day might come. They would have to explain how a group of lost humans had not only survived on this strange planet, but had discovered something amazing. They had found the secret of living forever. The alien ship landed in a large open area near the colony's main buildings. Captain Thexera stepped out first, followed by 5 other aliens from his crew. They all wore special suits that helped them breathe in the planet's air. Parkman walked toward them with Dr. Kim Tae and Dr. Lee Jun beside her. She raised her hand in a peaceful greeting. "Welcome to New Elysium. I am Parkman, the leader of this colony." Thexera looked around in amazement. The buildings were clearly human-made, but they were more advanced than anything his people had seen humans create before. Gardens filled with strange plants surrounded the structures, and the air felt clean and fresh. "I am Captain Thexera of the Galactic Council survey ship Void Walker," he said through his translation device. "According to our records, this planet should be empty. How are humans living here?" "That is a long story," Parkman replied with a small smile. "Please come inside. We have much to discuss." As they walked through the colony, the alien visitors saw more humans working and living normal lives. But something felt strange. Everyone they saw looked young and healthy, even though some of them mentioned they had been working on projects for decades or even centuries. "How long has your colony been here?" asked Zelmoth. "We arrived 312 years ago," answered Dr. Kim Tae. "Our ship was part of an early Earth exploration mission. We lost contact with Earth during our journey and ended up here." The aliens looked at each other with confusion. "But that would make you..." Thexera started to say, then stopped. "Very old, yes," Parkman finished for him. "But as you can see, we are all quite healthy." They entered a large meeting room where more colonists were waiting. Dr. Cho Hai, the colony's main scientist, stood near a wall covered with charts and pictures of strange microscopic creatures. "We discovered something on this planet that changed everything for us," she explained. "Something that no other species in the galaxy has ever found." "What kind of discovery?" asked the captain, though he was beginning to guess the answer. Dr. Lee Jun stepped forward. "We found a way to stop aging completely. Every person in this colony is biologically immortal." The alien visitors stood in shocked silence. In all their travels across the galaxy, they had met hundreds of different species. Some lived longer than others, but every form of life they knew eventually grew old and died. The idea of true immortality seemed impossible. "You must prove this claim," Thexera said finally. Parkman nodded. "We will show you everything. But I should warn you, what we learned here will change how your people think about life and death forever." Dr. Kim Tae led the alien visitors through a series of clean white hallways toward the colony's main research building. The walls were covered with pictures of strange crystal formations and tiny organisms that seemed to glow with their own light. "What you are about to see has been our greatest discovery," Kim Tae said as he opened a heavy door. "But it is also our greatest burden." Inside the laboratory, Dr. Cho-hai was waiting next to a large viewing screen. Despite telling the aliens she was 156 years old, she looked like she had just turned 20. Her eyes were bright and full of energy as she prepared to show them something incredible. "Please sit down," she said, pointing to chairs that had been arranged in front of the screen. This might be difficult to believe at first. Captain Thexera and his crew sat down, their translation devices humming softly as they prepared to record everything. The captain's scales were changing colors, which happened when his species felt nervous or excited. Dr. Cho-hai pressed a button, and the screen filled with images of beautiful underground caves. The walls of the caves were covered with crystals that sparkled like diamonds, but these crystals seemed to move and flow like liquid. 200 years ago, we were exploring the caves beneath our colony when we found these," she explained. "At first, we thought they were just pretty rocks. But when we looked at them under our microscopes, we discovered something amazing." The screen changed to show tiny organisms swimming around inside the crystals. They looked like very small jellyfish, but they glowed with a soft blue light and moved in patterns that seemed almost like they were dancing. "We call them renewal catalysts," said Dr. Kim Tae. "They are living creatures that exist inside the planet's crystal formations. They feed on the energy that comes from the planet's core." Navigator Zelmoff leaned forward in his chair. "But what do these creatures have to do with your immortality?" Dr. Lee Jun stepped up to the screen and pointed to a new image. "We discovered this by accident. One of our researchers cut her hand on a crystal, and some of these organisms got into her blood. Instead of making her sick, something wonderful happened." The screen now showed human blood cells next to the tiny glowing organisms. As the aliens watched, they could see the organisms attaching themselves to the blood cells and beginning to change them. "The renewal catalysts bond with human cells," explained Dr. Cho-hai. "Once they do this, they start fixing any damage they find. Old cells become young again. Broken parts get repaired. Diseases disappear. But most importantly," added Kim Tae, "they prevent aging completely. As long as the organisms stay in our bodies, we will never grow old or die from natural causes." The Zephyrian ambassador, who had been quiet until now, suddenly stood up. His large body was shaking with excitement. "This is exactly what my people need. Our species is dying from a terrible sickness. These organisms could save us all." But Dr. Kim Tae shook his head sadly. "We tried to help other species when we first made this discovery. We tested the organisms on plants and animals from other planets. But something very strange happened." He pressed another button, and the screen showed laboratory results. "The renewal catalysts only work with humans. When we tried to put them into other forms of life, they simply died. The organisms would not bond with anything that was not human." "That is impossible," said the Vezari representative, her skin flashing bright red with anger. "There must be a way to make it work for other species." Dr. Cho-hai pulled up genetic charts on the screen. "We have spent decades trying to understand why. The best answer we can find is that humans developed something special during their evolution on Earth. Our planet had unique electromagnetic fields that changed our genetic code in very small ways. The renewal catalysts seem to recognize these special genetic markers," continued Dr. Lee Jun. "Without them, the organisms treat other species as foreign invaders and simply refuse to work." Captain Thexera felt his heart sinking. His own people lived for only 60 years, which was very short compared to many galactic species. The idea that eternal life was possible but only for humans seemed cruel. "Have you tried mixing human and alien DNA?" he asked hopefully. Many times, replied Kim Tae. But the organisms are very smart. They can tell the difference between real human genetics and artificially created combinations. They will not be tricked. The room fell silent as the aliens realized what this meant. The greatest discovery in galactic history, the secret of immortality, was locked away behind human genetics that could not be copied or shared. We want to help, said Park Min, who had been listening quietly. We have shared all our research with the Galactic Council. Our scientists work day and night trying to find a way to adapt the process for other species. But so far, added Dr. Cho Hai, we have found no solution. The renewal catalysts are very specific about what they will accept. The Zephyrian ambassador's scales turn dark with frustration. So you are telling us that while our people die, you live forever, and there is nothing we can do about it? Park Min looked at him with sympathy. We are telling you that we will keep trying to find an answer, but we will not let our people become laboratory experiments for other species to study. The tension in the room grew thick as the aliens realized they had found the answer to their greatest dream, but it was completely beyond their reach. Within 3 weeks of Captain Thexera's report reaching the Galactic Council, everything changed for the quiet colony of New Elysium. Park Min stood in the colony's communication center, watching as more and more ships appeared on their orbital scanners. 15 new vessels arrived yesterday, reported Lee Soo, who was monitoring the space around their planet. That makes 43 ships total, and more are coming every day. Dr. Kim Tae looked worried as he studied the readings. Some of them are just observation ships, but others are carrying heavy weapons. The Zephyrian fleet especially looks like they are preparing for war. The communication system suddenly came alive with an incoming message. Park Min accepted the call and found herself looking at a massive holographic assembly. Representatives from dozens of alien species filled the screen, all talking at once in angry voices. Silence! Roared War Prime Nextol of the Zephyrian Empire. His huge form dominated the center of the display, and his scales were flashing the deep red color that meant extreme anger. The humans will listen to our demands. Park Min kept her voice calm and steady. We are listening. What do you want from us? Our people are dying, shouted the Vezari representative, her bioluminescent patches flashing like angry lightning. 17 million Zephyrians have died from the Crimson Plague this year alone. You have the cure, and you refuse to share it. Dr. Kim Tae stepped beside Park Min. We have shared everything we know. All our research data has been transmitted to your scientists. We are not hiding anything from you. Data is worthless, screeched a bird-like creature from the aviac species. Our people age 50 years for every one of yours. We need living subjects to study how the organisms work inside your bodies. The hologram showed dozens of alien faces, all looking desperate and angry. Some species were old and dying, others were suffering from diseases, and many were simply tired of their short lifespans compared to the immortal humans. You must provide volunteers for our research, demanded Nexthal. We will treat them well, but we need to examine living humans who carry these organisms. Park Min felt her anger rising, but she kept her voice steady. Our people are not laboratory animals. We will not allow anyone to experiment on us. Then you condemn entire civilizations to death, shouted the Centauran delegate, whose energy form pulsed with rage inside a containment suit. How can you be so selfish? Back on New Elysium's surface, the colonists were gathering in the main meeting hall. Dr. Cho Hai stood before a crowd of worried faces, explaining what was happening in space above them. They want to take some of us away for experiments, she said simply. They believe that by studying our bodies, they can learn how to make the renewal catalyst work for their species. An older colonist named Park Wu raised his hand. What happens if we refuse? Then they will probably try to take us by force, replied Dr. Lee Jun. The Zephyrian fleet alone has enough firepower to destroy our entire colony. A young woman named Kim stood up from the back of the room. But we cannot just give up our freedom because they threaten us. We have lived here peacefully for 300 years. This is our home. Meanwhile, in space above the planet, the alien fleets were growing larger and more threatening. The Zephyrian ships had formed a tight circle around New Elysium, preventing any vessels from entering or leaving the system. They have established a complete blockade, reported Lee Su from the orbital monitoring station. No supplies can reach us, and no one can leave. Dr. Kim Tae was studying tactical displays when Park Min joined him in the command center. How long can we survive under blockade? She asked. Our food production systems can support the colony indefinitely, he replied. But they can cut off our communications with the rest of the galaxy. They want to isolate us completely. The communication system activated again, and War Prime Nextol's angry face filled the screen. This is your final warning. Humans, provide us with 50 volunteers for scientific study, or we will take them by force. And if we agree to your demands, ask Park Min, what happens to those 50 people? They will be kept comfortable while our scientists study them. Nextol replied, we are not monsters. We simply need to understand how the immortality process works. Dr. Cho Hai stepped forward. You want to cut us open to see how we work. You want to test drugs and treatments on us. You want to try to remove the organisms from our bodies to see if you can put them into your own people. If necessary, yes, admitted the Zephyrian leader. Some sacrifice is required for the greater good. Whose greater good? Demanded Park Min. You are asking us to sacrifice our people's freedom and safety for your benefit. That is not how peaceful cooperation works. The alien assembly erupted in angry voices again. Some species supported the Zephyrians, while others argued that the humans had rights that should be respected. The Galactic Council was splitting apart as different groups chose different sides. You have 24 hours to decide, announced Nextol before cutting off the communication. Park Min looked around at her fellow colonists. Well, what do we do now? Dr. Kim Tae's expression was grim, but determined. We do what humans have always done when faced with impossible choices. We find a third option. The attack came at dawn, just as the morning sun began to light up the crystal caves around New Elysium Colony. Captain Park Wu was drinking his morning coffee when the emergency alarm started screaming throughout the settlement. Enemy soldiers have landed in Sector 7, reported Lieutenant Kimda through the communication system. 17 Zephyrian fighters, armed with plasma weapons and stun devices. Park Wu put down his coffee and picked up his weapon. At 201 years old, he had spent many decades preparing for this exact moment. He looked like a young man in his 20s, but his mind held centuries of military knowledge and tactical experience. They want to capture our people alive, he said into his communicator. That gives us an advantage. They cannot simply destroy everything they see. The Zephyrian soldiers moved through the colony's outer buildings, expecting to find frightened civilians who would surrender easily. Instead, they found something they had never seen before, humans who fought without fear of death. Park will appear around the corner of a building and immediately took 3 direct hits from Zephyrian plasma rifles. The energy blast would have killed any normal person instantly. Instead, Park will roll behind cover, returned fire, and watched as his wounds began healing within seconds. Impossible! Roared the Zephyrian squad leader, his scales turning bright yellow with confusion. Our weapon should have killed him. We are still human, Park Wu called out as he advanced toward the enemy soldiers. We just got better at surviving. More shots hit him, burning through his clothing and leaving marks on his skin. But each wound closed quickly, and Park Wu kept moving forward. His return fire was precise and deadly, dropping 2 Zephyrian soldiers before they could understand what was happening. In the colony's command center, Dr. Lee Jun was coordinating the defense. He had spent 150 years studying not just alien biology, but also military strategy and combat tactics. His youthful face showed no panic as he directed the colony's defenders. Team 3 moved to block the eastern approach, he said calmly into his headset. Team 7, protect the research facility at all costs. Remember, they need us alive, so they cannot use their heaviest weapons. The battle spread throughout the colony as more Zephyrian landing craft arrived. But the aliens quickly discovered that fighting immortal humans was unlike any combat they had ever experienced. Lieutenant Kim led a group of defenders against a squad trying to capture the medical center. When a Zephyrian soldier shot her in the shoulder, she barely flinched. Instead, she used a moment of surprise to get closer and disable his weapon with a precise shot. How are they still fighting? demanded one of the alien soldiers as he watched Kim Da's shoulder wound disappear completely. Because we have something to protect, she replied, taking down 2 more enemies with quick, accurate shots. Above the planet, space combat had also begun. The Zephyrian fleet was attacking New Elysium's orbital defense platforms, but they were shocked to discover that the human technology was far more advanced than anyone had expected. Engineer Lim Seo was working inside Defense Platform Alpha when enemy fire punched through the hull next to her. The blast threw her against a wall and left her with several broken bones. But within minutes, her injuries were healing, and she was back at her control station. Hull breach sealed, she reported to the colony. Auto repair systems are working perfectly. Just like us, she added with a determined smile. The orbital defenses that the humans had built over 3 centuries were impressive. Weapons that could punch through the strongest alien armor, shields that could absorb massive amount of energy, and repair systems that worked as quickly as a human healing process. Their technology is impossible, reported a Zephyrian ship captain to War Prime Nexthal. They have had 300 years to develop without interference. Their science is beyond anything we expected. On the planet's surface, the ground battle was turning into a disaster for the Zephyrian forces. Dr. Kim Tae had joined the fighting, and despite being a scientist, his 2 centuries of life had included extensive combat training. He moved through the colony's underground tunnel system, appearing behind enemy soldiers and disabling them before they could react. When plasma fire hit him in the chest, he kept fighting. When an explosion knocked him down, he got back up. "We cannot capture them," reported the Zephyrian ground commander. "They heal too quickly. They know the terrain perfectly, and they fight like they have nothing to lose." "Because we don't," replied Park Woo, who had been listening to their communications. "We cannot die, and we will not surrender." The battle lasted 3 full days. The immortal humans fought with a combination of fearlessness and tactical knowledge that amazed their enemies. They could take risks that no other soldiers would dare attempt, knowing that even serious injuries would heal within hours. By the end of the 3rd day, the Zephyrian forces were retreating. They had managed to capture no one and had lost many of their own soldiers. The humans had defended their colony successfully, but everyone knew this was just the beginning. "This will not end here," said Parkman as she surveyed the damage to their settlement. "More species will come. The war has only just started." Dr. Kim Tae nodded grimly. "Then we had better prepare for a longer fight." 6 months after the first battle at New Elysium, the war had spread across 3 different star systems. Dozens of alien species had joined the fight, some supporting the humans' right to freedom, others demanding access to immortality at any cost. Dr. Kim Tae stood in his rebuilt laboratory, looking tired despite his eternally youthful appearance. The constant fighting had worn down even the immortal humans, not in body, but in spirit. He turned to his research partner, Dr. Song-Eun, who was working at a table covered with strange glowing samples. "Are you certain this will work?" he asked her quietly. Song-Eun looked up from her microscope. Though she was 89 years old, she appeared to be barely 20. Her eyes, however, held the wisdom of decades spent in careful scientific study. "The theory is sound," she replied, "but we have never tested it on a living subject from another species. It could be very dangerous." Meanwhile, in the Galactic Council chambers, representatives from 47 different species were arguing loudly about what to do next. The war was costing everyone enormous amounts of money and resources, and many civilizations were beginning to question whether immortality was worth such a terrible conflict. Captain Thexera, who had first discovered New Elysium, stood up to address the assembly. "I request that we allow the humans to speak one more time. They have asked for a chance to present new information." War Prime Nexthal slammed his massive fist on the council table. "More human lies and delays. My people continue to die while we waste time talking." But the council voted to hear what the humans had to say. Parkman appeared on a holographic display, standing next to Dr. Kim Tae and Dr. Song-Eun in their laboratory. "We have something to show you," Parkman announced. "Something that we have been working on since this war began." Dr. Song-Eun stepped forward and activated a display screen. It showed microscopic organisms that looked similar to the original renewal catalysts, but these were different colors and moved in different patterns. We call them unity catalysts, she explained to the stunned assembly. Through careful genetic modification and quantum biological engineering, we have created organisms that might be able to work with non-human biology. The chamber erupted in excited voices, but Parkman raised her hand for silence. However, she continued, these new organisms require something very special, something that cannot be taken by force, stolen through warfare, or demanded through threats. Dr. Kim Tae pointed to complex charts on the display. The unity catalyst bond not just with genetic material, but with what we humans call the spirit or soul of a living being. They can sense the true intentions and character of any creature they encounter. What does that mean exactly? Asked the Centauran delegate, his energy form pulsing with curiosity. It means, said Dr. Song-un, that the organisms will only work for beings who possess genuine peaceful intentions, true compassion for other species, and a sincere desire to help others rather than just themselves. War Prime Nextol scales flashed angry red. More human trickery. You cannot measure a soul. Can we not? Asked Dr. Kim Tae calmly. The original renewal catalysts prove that there are things beyond simple biology. The unity catalysts take this even further. Parkman stepped forward again. We propose a new system. Any species that wishes to gain access to extended life must prove their commitment to peace and cooperation. Candidates must spend at least 1 full year living among human colonies, learning our values and demonstrating their genuine desire to help build a better galaxy. You are asking us to become more human, said the Vezari representative, though her tone was thoughtful rather than angry. We are asking you to become better versions of yourselves, replied Parkman. Immortality without wisdom is dangerous. Eternal life without compassion leads to eternal suffering for everyone. Dr. Song-un activated another display showing successful test results. We have already had our first volunteer. A young Vezari scientist named HFY Liana spent 18 months living in our colony, working alongside our researchers and learning our ways. The display showed a graceful alien creature with soft blue skin and large, kind eyes. The Unity Catalyst successfully bonded with her biology 3 days ago. She is now biologically immortal, and her aging process has stopped completely. But more importantly, added Dr. Kim Tae, she has become a bridge between our species. She understands both human and Vezari culture, and she is already working to help other members of her species prepare for the bonding process. The Galactic Council chamber fell silent as the representatives considered this new information. The idea that immortality required not just biological compatibility, but spiritual growth was completely unexpected. Captain Thexera was the first to speak. So you are offering us eternal life, but only if we prove ourselves worthy of it. We are offering you the chance to become the best possible versions of your species. Parkman replied. The Unity Catalyst will not work for beings filled with hatred, greed, or the desire to harm others. They only respond to genuine goodness. 6 months later, the Immortality Accords were signed by 32 different species. The new agreement established cultural exchange programs, peaceful cooperation requirements, and a careful selection process for immortality candidates. Dr. Kim Tae watched from New Elysium as the first mixed colony ships departed for distant stars, carrying crews of humans and aliens working together in harmony. Do you think it will work? Asked Parkman. Kim Tae smiled. They have forever to figure out. And now, so do we.